Ian Woods. Ian, Eunice was saying there about Donald Trump's I suppose he's lauding, and obviously he would enjoy the fact that Pfizer has shown that its vaccine at the moment is 90% effective. The thing is, Operation Warp Speed, that federal program in the United States, which is giving billions of dollars to try to find a vaccine, it literally gave 0 cents to Pfizer, and that is according to Pfizer. So I'm not sure if the president can claim credit for that. What do you make of his relative silence since the election in terms of the virus? Because obviously he's talking about the election, but not about corona.
Yeah, I mean, you read out his tweet regarding CNN a short time ago, in which he was saying that there would be no coverage of COVID-19 as soon as the election was over. It was all geared around the election. And during the election period, sure, COVID-19 had to take a little bit of a backseat, and the networks weren't reporting on it quite so much. They should be getting back to it now, but the reason that they can't get back to reporting it in as much detail as I'm sure everyone would like is because we're in the midst of this constitutional crisis of Donald Trump's making. The fact that he won't concede that Joe Biden has won the election, even though the figures seem to point to that, the votes seem to point to that, and world leaders from around the globe are busily calling with their congratulations and to talk about working with Joe Biden in the future. So that is why the media are still not giving as much attention to COVID-19 as perhaps they ought to at the moment. But this constitutional crisis has got to end at some point. You would have thought that when Arizona was declared for Joe Biden last night, that would be another nail in the coffin, if you like, of any hopes of somehow Donald Trump pulling out a victory. You'll remember that the cause of his angst about Fox News over the past weeks was because they called Arizona early. Well, they've clearly been justified in their early call of Joe Biden winning Arizona, because now all the other networks are joining in and the votes have piled up in Joe Biden's favor and haven't been able to, Donald Trump hasn't come anywhere close to challenging that lead. So at some point, officials, you would have thought, in the White House are going to have to say to Donald Trump, look, we know that you're hurting over this and we can understand why you're hurting, and a lot of your supporters are hurting, but it is time to move on.
The question is, obviously it's difficult to prove whether a lack of leadership or a leadership that doesn't quite tally with the scientific advice is going to be directly responsible for COVID-19 deaths. There is this incredible statistic, Ian. It's an analysis by Associated Press. So it found that in 376 counties, which have the highest number of new cases of coronavirus per capita, so 376 counties, the worst affected, there, 93% of people in those counties voted for Donald Trump. So maybe he's not talking about it because he's seen those figures and realized that my supporters don't care.
Well, he's got a record throughout this entire crisis of not doing that. Even when he was supposedly announcing measures to help the country deal with this, going all the way back to March, and he was saying that the official advice was to wear a mask. He didn't want to do that. He couldn't see himself doing that. So the leadership has come from the front there, and it has clearly been lacking. But that didn't stop, let's remember, so many people voting for him. They could see the death toll and the number of tests increasing across the country, right up to and including and beyond Election Day. But more than 70 million people still voted for Donald Trump because they thought that he was the best person to lead America out of this crisis. Maybe they thought that, sure, he hasn't done a very good job on terms of health policy, but in terms of economic policy, we put our faith in this man to take us beyond that. But it is clear that COVID is still deeply entrenched in America. It's still deeply entrenched in senior Republicans as well. But until we can get the election sorted out, Joe Biden and his team can't really start to formulate their policies and what they are going to do that's going to be any different. You know, there's all sorts of political spin being put on allegations of election fraud. But when you have the very body which regulates elections in the United States, the Election Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council, it's a very bit of a mouthful, but it's a government agency. It is part of the White House government. But when they say there is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised, you've got to listen to them. They say that you've got to trust election officials, and it's just a shame that so few people in this country, or in the United States rather, seem to trust the very people who are running the elections.
This computer modeling by the University of Washington is shocking, saying that there could well be 439,000 dead people in the United States from COVID-19 by March the 1st. How much is COVID-19 going to go down as the overriding legacy of the Donald Trump presidency?
Well, it's got to, because, to be frank, without COVID, Donald Trump stood a very, very good chance of winning re-election. I think that a lot of people who came out to support Joe Biden during the course of this election were motivated to do so, not just by antipathy towards the way Donald Trump tweets or the way he behaves as a president. They were motivated by the fact that loved ones had died. They could see how the country had been affected by COVID, and the very fact that the president himself seemed to care so little that he himself got it and then boasted about how he was immune within days of coming out of hospital must surely have guided some people in the way that they decided that they were going to vote in the end. So therefore, when it comes to Donald Trump's legacy, COVID-19 will be written large on it. But the other thing that's going to be affecting Donald Trump's legacy is how he leaves the White House. If he is someone, the first president in history, to have to be effectively dragged out of the White House because of his refusal to concede, having seen the results come in and everyone saying to him, "You've lost, move on," it seems his policy is to keep America angry, keep Republicans angry over the way that the election supposedly has been robbed, has been rigged and taken away from them, and keep Democrats angry by refusing to go quietly. America is still going to be in turmoil, and there are a lot of people just hoping that this is resolved well before January the 20th, when Joe Biden is due to be inaugurated.
Ian Woods, thank you so much indeed. Always a pleasure to hear your thoughts.